So finally, here it goes. I'm getting my channel off the ground. So many things to consider. What platform do you want to use? I'm going to go with YouTube. It's a pretty good choice. A lot of people seem to have some fun with it. And I've certainly learned a lot from other people's channels through the years in perusing their collections and perusing contests, live streams, that type of thing. So I thought, hey, why not throw my hat into the ring and see what happens? Let's have some fun. That's what it's all about for me. Things to consider, though, the lighting. What camera should I use? The laptop? Do I use my phone? Do I need an external microphone? Lots of things to consider, but it's a learning experience, and as time goes on, perhaps I'll have to make some changes. I'm sure I will. But that's it. That's how it goes. And I'm really looking forward to this journey. So thanks for tuning in. My name's Terry Watchter, and this segment's going to be called mynoise. The reason I'm calling it mynoise is I was listening to some of my old records recently, things I haven't listened to in about 20 or 30 years, and I was shocked by how bad they sounded. I mean, the quality itself of the recordings were fine, but man, the surface noise, the cracks, the pops, it was just crazy to listen to it. And I was kind of, saddened by that. It's like, my God, these are my original pressings of this really hard to find stuff. I'm going to have to try and clean these, I guess. I don't know. But as time went on, I was listening through side A. I realized, well, this is the noise that I made. This is my noise. Hence the name of this channel and the segment of this channel. I might be getting into some cooking and stuff. I'm a chef by trade, something that I really enjoy. So, we might do a little bit of a blend between some cooking, some music. We'll see what happens. But where does one begin with this? I mean, you have to start somewhere. So I figure, well, why not begin from the beginning? I mean, I grew up in a household where audio was a big thing. My dad worked for a very reputable hi-fi stereo shop in Toronto. And he obviously had to demonstrate a lot of equipment to people with varying degrees of taste and income. So he would bring home a lot of really interesting stuff. It was top quality stuff that he himself started to enjoy as a fan. I mean, he grew up with a lot of classical background, jazz, that type of thing. But bringing popular music into the house was a godsend for me because being a 5-6-year-old kid, I was just smitten by what I was hearing. He was bringing home stuff like Creedence Clearwater Revival, The Doors, Kraftwerk, but then there was the Berlioz, there was the Beethoven, there was the Mozart, a variety of different types of things, and it just blew me away. And of course, we had a half-decent stereo in the house, so everything sounded fantastic. Something that I kind of bring with me to this day. I've always kind of tried to have a really good stereo, even if it was up to me with my meager incomes at various stages in life. Trying to get the better stuff. It pays off in the end. But of course, as I said with mynoise, I kind of was a little abusive through certain periods of my life where I would just have people over and the records would not be reshelved. They wouldn't be put away in their beautiful liners. Things just kind of got a little abused. I'm also going to try and do this without edits. I know there was just one there. I'm impressed by people that can just freewheel this and do a 6 to 7 minute monologue talking about things off the cuff. But it being my first video, I'm a little trepidatious about that type of thing. So forgive me, I'm going to try and do my best to not edit too much. Getting back to the subject matter at hand, I was listening to all this great music. I would throw on Radioactivity by Kraftwerk, or my dad would. He was a bachelor, so on weekends he would have some parties. People would come over, co-workers, friends of his. And of course, back in the early 70s, late night television really wasn't a thing, so you had people over for drinks and you played music, and they would bring their music along. I got exposed to a lot of really strange stuff at that stage in my life, things, a lot of krautrock, like Can, Tangerine, Dream. Some of my dad's friends, were listening to King Crimson and Frank Zappa. Very odd stuff. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I was sequestered to my room. We had a small 2-bedroom apartment. And, party time wasn't for the kid. So I would just sit in my room and listen to this stuff and try and figure out what it was. And hopefully these people were drunk enough to leave and leave the records behind so I could check them out the next day, find out what it was I was listening to. The one that really caught my attention, though, it was a real game changer, was in 1973. My father walked through the door with a copy of this. I know everyone's seen this record cover a million times. Everyone has it. Personally, I barely even listen to it anymore because I've heard it so many times. But my dad brought that home, And he sat me down in front of the stereo, and he had this big set of Koss headphones. He plunked them over my head and said, just listen to this. And over the course of that 40 minutes, whatever the length of that album is, I was just completely blown away by what I was hearing. I mean, sure, I heard stuff like Can, Tangerine Dream, very kind of oblique and strange things. But this had a lot of structure to it. It wasn't very ambient. It was very, very focused in what it was delivering. It had the odd pop-ish kind of song, like one with some recognizable structure like Money or Us and Them. But generally speaking, what was going on with that thing, the heartbeats, the alarm clocks, the piano work, the soaring vocals at Great Gig in the Sky, I was completely blown away by it, and it left an indelible mark. I mean, the copy I just showed here, that is my copy. I bought it in 1974. Didn't really listen to it a whole lot recently, and I still popped it on. It still sounds fantastic. The early pressings, as long as they were taken care of, still sound great. This one managed to survive my abusive years, because at that point in my life I was already sick of it. I was tired of hearing it. The album still, though, was worth its weight in gold. Fantastic record. I did love what he was bringing home, but I also liked what I was hearing on the radio. Things that my dad didn't have. And I did get a meager allowance back then, so I remember one weekend with my, whatever it was, $2, I went to the local plaza that had a record shop in it, and I bought this. Number 1 in the US, I think number 2 in England. Lindsey Buckingham said it was a massive influence on the recording of Rumours. A song that was huge. I mean, it was supposed to be in the Saturday Night Fever movie, but I think the scene that it was supposed to be used in was cut. Well, but this song was something that was played on the radio quite a bit, and I was just smitten by it. I mean, I would listen to it over and over and over, much to the chagrin of my father. I remember one morning, though, it was Saturday, day off school, and I kind of ambled over to the stereo to have my daily jive talking session, and it wasn't there. I was, a little confused about what was happening. I asked my dad, I said, "Dad, have you seen my record?" He's like, no, it must be in your room or something. Likely story is that he was just so sick of hearing the goddamn thing that he threw it in the garbage. It's probably now residing in a landfill somewhere. But this one here, the one that I hold in my hands, I recently picked up in a record shop. I've been looking for it for years. On a recent trip to Toronto, I was doing some record shopping, and I thought, I'm going to find this thing. I'm going to find it. I mean, I had no luck in those other shops, the jumble mayhem of 45s. And I knew there was one shop that was very fastidious in the way they presented themselves, the way they would categorize things, the way they would catalog everything. So I thought I'd give it a shot. Went back to the 45s, flipped through the beat box. Sure enough, there it was. I pulled it out. This thing was mint. It had never been played before. So this is fantastic. But price code E, what could that possibly mean? So I took it up to the front cash, and I found out that it was actually $10. Not cheap for an old 45. But like I said, where am I ever going to find an absolutely mint copy like that again? So I kind of bucked up and paid the $10 and went out the door. Now the weird irony in all of it is that it was raining that night, and I stepped off the curb to get across the street to where I had to go next, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be something if I was suddenly struck by a car, killed, and the first record I ever bought in life and the last record I ever bought in life were the exact same mint copy of Jive Talkin'? I mean, explain that to Peter and the Angels. That was a chuckle that I had. Thankfully, the drivers were very careful, and I managed to make it home alive and have it to this day. And thankfully, I found it. It was a bit of a grail of sorts, a ridiculous grail. I mean, that term's used for all sorts of different things. But it was something that I needed, and I'm so glad to have it. As I kept listening through music, friends' places, I would go over, and something that blew me away, walking into this guy's room. He had a crappy kind of candle stereo, but whatever, it didn't matter. What he did have was this posters of this crazy space band, this demonic star child lion band, standing over a crumbling city, beckoning me to purchase this thing. He put it on, and it was Kiss Destroyer. I think that was the jump off point for a lot of people for Kiss. Like how's a 10-year-old gonna not love that? I mean, I was smitten right away. It fell right in line with Saturday morning cartoons, and it had the boogie beat. I loved the music. It was great. I mean, to this day now, people say that's probably Kiss's worst album. They don't like what Bob Ezrin brought to the production. But to me, I didn't care back then. It sounded fantastic. I actually have to point to that copy because I no longer have mine. Mine was lost in the shuffle years and years ago. At that point, I really didn't even care about it all that much, so I never bothered to replace it with anything. So be it. But yeah, man, that was a game changer. That really did bring things to a new level for me. And suddenly I was in a realm where my father thought it was ridiculous, but this was somehow mine. This was ours. It was like a secret. I remember the big kids making fun of Kiss, saying, they're all listening to Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and we're just a bunch of goofy little dorks to listening to this nonsensical stuff. But it was ours, and we loved it. After that, I think I picked up this one, but purely because of the cover. I mean, look at that thing. The gatefold is ridiculously amazing, too. ELO's Out of the Blue. Great record. Two double discs. It was the first double I ever had. Huge amount of stuff to get your head around, but I did love it. It was great, and just staring at the artwork for hours and hours. I mean, I'll pull the gatefold out. Like, look at this thing. And yes, this is actually my copy still too. I did manage to hang on to it. Like, just fantastic. I stared at that. The band were actually technicians on a UFO, able to travel through space and time. So that was ELO. They were part of the gang now too in my little meager record collection. My dad still kept bringing stuff home, stuff like Fleetwood Mac, things that I really didn't enjoy all that much. But because my dad was in the stereo business, he had a lot of friends in the record industry. And one friend of his would always come by the house to visit, or we'd go to his house. But he always had a box of promo records. So one afternoon, he invited me up to his car. I think he was heading home. He just came by to borrow the lawnmower or something. And as he was loading stuff into his car, he said, "Oh, Terry, I got a box of records in the back. You want to take a look?" Now, they're all promos. But I didn't care. Free records. How am I going to say no? So I was leafing through everything, checking things out, seeing this, seeing that. And suddenly, I flipped onto that. Still has the old promo hole in it there. Straight from the trunk of his car. But man, the first Iron Maiden album. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. There's this zombie creature thing on the front of this record. I thought, this is it. This is coming home with me. I'm taking this one. And my dad's friend didn't really care what I took. I mean, he kind of looked out of the corner of his eye to make sure I wasn't taking the entire box with me. But I remember going up to my room and sheepishly putting it on, quietly playing it, not knowing what I was in for, not wanting my dad to hear, because maybe he somehow knew about this. Maybe this was some type of a new cult band thing that grown-ups knew about that us dumb kids had no awareness of. And playing it, oh my God, it was a game changer for me. That's when the heavy came in, and that's when I really started to appreciate the harder side of things. And that's where I'm going to leave off right now. That's where things are going to head. I came through the entire world of Supertramp, like I said, Fleetwood Mac, Crosby, Stills and Nash, but then Iron Maiden changed it all for me. Anyway, thanks for checking things out. Make sure to hit the old like and the old subscribe. And I promise to improve things as things go along. I know this was a bit of rough and ragged, but you got to start somewhere. And this, to me, was my best attempt at how things go. I don't know, perhaps I should have a shot of scotch next time. Maybe things go a little smoother. Anyway, bye for now, and see you soon.